3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, hello. This is Ignacy from Portal Games.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 259. And we are recording this on December 14th, 2022. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. And on Friday, during the day, I'll be playing one, if not two games of War of the Ring with my good buddy Roy Canaday of the Dice Tower. Roy was given the day off from the Dice Tower, so he's coming up here to play. But I told Roy, don't tell Tom Vassell that you're coming here to play games with me, because Tom will then find something for you to do back at the Dice Tower headquarters. Don't you agree?
That could be a possibility. Yes, it's possible. Believe it or not, but right after this recording, like literally right after recording 4 p.m. Polish time, I'm going to play the Battle of the Five Armies.
No kidding, really?
Yeah, my friend is coming here to my games room in the office, and we are going to play Battle of the Five Armies. So the next week I will give you an update if I crushed them or if I lost.
It's so I like the game quite a bit, of course, right? It has the same DNA, let's call it, as War of the Ring, but it's a much more tactical game than a strategic game. Have you played it before?
Yes.
You have? Okay. Yeah, so let me know what you think. I mean, you probably haven't played it in years. I played it just over a year ago. No, a little less than a year ago. I played it for the first time. Yeah, I liked it.
It has this amazing cardboard piece for the Gandalf fireball when you measure when he shoots fire. This is like so silly and so fun at the same time.
It has a cardboard Gandalf fireball that arcs across the battlefield that you have to measure. Yes, I remember that very well. That is funny. Yeah, I guess they could have done that different ways, but they did it like that, and I think it works. It's pretty cool. All right, Ignacy, what's going on over at Portal Games?
At Portal Games, the last episode I announced, now I'm confirming this week as we are recording, so last week as you're listening to, we released another army for Neuroshima Hex. As I said many times in this podcast, this is our best-selling app. If you like tactical games, you have to have it on your phone. Now the app comes with more than 10 armies. There's so much variety, so much different tactics, so much different strategies to play. We just keep updating this app with the new stuff, and more to come also next year. So make yourself a holiday gift. Go to App Store or Google Play Store, whatever device you are using. Download the Neuroshima Hex app, and I promise you this is one of the best tactical games in our hobby. I can say the super openly, it's absolutely brilliant game. I want to start a short series of segments, Portal Games recap of 2022, and remind everyone what Portal Games achieved, what Portal Games did this year. We started the year with a release of Gutenberg. We talk about this game many times in this podcast. Once again, to recap the situation, what happened for the first time in the history. Portal Game is official distributor of the game that we not designed, we not developed. We just act as a distributor for the North America market. We are very proud. This game was designed by Polish designers, published in Poland and in different countries by the company called Granna, great company from Poland.
Yeah.
And we are proud to bring this game to North America. The game is almost sold out, so if you were wondering about the game during the whole year, I strongly recommend to check it out. It's a medium light Euro game. I had very good reviews. The production value is insane. The game is thematic. Guys, you listeners to the podcast know that I'm board games tell stories. I like games that are very thematic. This game is really thematic. You feel like you're working in the printing press, you're creating books, you're buying inks, you're taking orders for the new books. So very thematic Euro game. I'm very proud to be publisher of this game. If these designers came to me, not to Granna, I would publish this game anyway, but they came to Granna, so I became distributor for the game. So check out at your favorite local game store Gutenberg. It was one of the successes for Portal Games in this year, and I'm very proud that we did it. For the gossips, rumors, and updates from the HQ, first of all, a reminder to everyone, the big project for the next year for Portal Games. The biggest game for the next year for Portal Games is a Thorgal. It's a game about the Viking who takes his friends for adventures. It's an adventure-driven game, many different scenarios. Yes.
And you said it right this time, Thorgal.
Yes. And this week I got a conversation because the writer for the story for Thorgal is from Belgium, and I talked with a friend of mine who said how they pronounce it in Belgium, obviously very differently, and how we do it in Poland, obviously very differently. But yes, for our English-speaking listeners, it is Thorgal.
Thorgal.
And this is a Viking-themed board game. You have it's a cooperative game, and the game will be on GameFound early next year in a couple of weeks. And we already started publishing updates. And every week, every Tuesday, I present one piece of mechanism, one piece of rules. This week, I published the article called One Roll, and this is about the combat rules. So if you are interested how combat rules look like in this game, I'm discussing it. I'm discussing why we decided for such a solution, and then I present this solution. So if you are interested in this big production from Portal Games for next year, Thorgal, it is already quite well presented on the GameFound page. I want also to remind that we are partnered with the company Diced. This is how you say it, Diced?
Yeah, that's a hard one to say because it's not a word. Diced maybe, D-I-Z-E-D, Diced. I always say. But
this is the app that has tutorials for the games. It teaches you how to play the game. This is for the mobile and for the PC, and we are partnered with them for the Robinson Crusoe. So if you have on your shelf Robinson Crusoe and you haven't played it for a while, or you haven't played it never because you were afraid of the big rules, you can download this app for free. Go to Google Play or go to Android Store or to the App Store, download this app, and it really teaches you. It keeps you as for your hand and goes step by step, teaches you how to play the game. So Robinson Crusoe, if you have it already and you're scared of this game, you can play it this holiday season using the Diced app. Here at Portal Games, of course, I'm working on the new Batman game. So playtesting, and designing, and fixing, and changing, and editing, a lot of work. And as always, I want to invite you to my website, ignacytrzewicek.com. 3 times a week, believe it or not, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm writing reviews, essays, feuilletons, different text. So check it out 3 times a week, ignacytrzewicek.com. I saw Steven paid me a visit. And they left a comment. I appreciate that. It was very nice. Thank you for that.
We'll talk about that later.
So yes, ignacytrzewicek.com 3 times a week. And this was happening. So basically a little bit of design, a little bit of preparing for the next year already. And all this free time I have is for you guys writing new articles for you at ignacytrzewicek.com.
Very cool. And this week over at the Podfather of Gaming, it was a Friends from New Jersey week. I'd mentioned this when we recorded last time that I had friends in from New Jersey, Neil and Amy. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with Paula and I. And Neil and I decided to play like most of my Lord of the Rings games, which was pretty funny. We just kept picking another Lord of the Rings game, it seemed like, off the shelf. So we played War of the Ring. We played War of the Ring, the card game, right? The new one that you talked about in your blog. We'll get to that later. We played Lord of the Rings, The Duel. Do you know
this one?
I don't know. So it's cute. It's one of those Cosmos small box like games. That whole like 2-player line. I believe they were all 2 players. Maybe not. Maybe they weren't all, but they were like that. I don't know. Small, very, very thin boxes. Like Lost Cities came in that series. Yeah, you're probably looking back there now to see if you have one of those. But anyway, so in Lord of the Rings, The Duel, it's Gandalf versus the Balrog on the bridge at Khazad-dûm, and you literally talk about silly components in a game. It has the bridge. So when you pull out the little game board, it's a little game board, you pull out a bridge that you kind of, once you build it, it hopefully mostly stays together. You put it out there, and Gandalf and the Balrog, as they battle, they're getting higher on the bridge. And you're doing this via card play. You're putting out a card. Your offense is against the defense of the card of the other player, and then that same card has an offensive value to go against the defense of the next card. And it goes back and forth. And the strategy is to hold back some of your really powerful cards for the final epic battle at the end. Really cute game. I like it a lot. I don't think it's like magnificent in its strategy, but it really is a really kind of cool two-player game if you ever get a chance to play Lord of the Rings: The Duel. And then we did really kind of old school, probably came out around the same time, Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation.
This one I have on my book.
There you go. And this was the deluxe edition I have. For whatever reason, I got the best edition that they ever put out. Games out of print. Both of these games, I'm pretty sure, are way out of print. This is a Stratego-like game, right, where you have 9 characters. There's 9, of course, on the Fellowship trying to get to Mordor. Frodo's got to get to Mordor as that win condition. The Shadow has to either kill Frodo or get 4 of its characters, I think it's 4, into the Shire, all the way on the other side. Oh, you know this game well then. And as you move, you then have a battle between the characters. And it's not just a simple, like in Stratego, where if I have the 3 and you have a 6, I win, right? The lower numbers were the more powerful ones in Stratego. Right. With this, you then first, you have a card play. And then on the cards, there's possibly a battle number, but then there's also an effect on most of the cards. And you have to play all of your cards like over the course of all the turns before you can scoop them back up and play them again. I lost, but I hadn't played it in years. I played the Shadow, and I tried to capture Frodo. And at the end, I literally had one character on there and Frodo, and I could not get him. So I was
in this game. Frodo is like he's skiing, like he's just moving like a skiing on the mountains.
Frodo can always
dodge.
He moves. What's it called? Sideways. He can move sideways, and most characters can't do that, but he can always dodge away from the battle. So that's his special ability. Every character has a special ability. So it's pretty cool. I've heard people talking about it recently as one of those kind of a grail game that people wanted to add to their collection but couldn't find, have not been able to find for many years. And people go, oh, I got it at a flea market for $30 and things like that. So Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation, give it a shot. Pretty interesting game. And we also had a discussion of possibly me running the One Ring second edition RPG. I've really got to get my head into that. Maybe over the holidays, I'll start reading and try to digest it. I'm just not a big rules guy, and I haven't GM'd a game since like for 40 years. I mean, like since college, high school time. So I would be very interesting to get back, and of course, into my favorite IP. So I'm going to consider doing that, and I would definitely keep people appraised of how that goes if that ever happens. And then we also played the Cat in a Box, as I've been talking about, and Scout, just those nice light fast things. And First Rat, and I think I've mentioned it on the podcast. It's a real nice light Euro game by Pegasus Spiel. It came out the middle of last year. It was out of stock everywhere for the longest time. Really like this game. So Neil, as I mentioned just now, who was here, he cares less about theme. Now, yeah, Lord of the Rings stuff, obviously he's a fan too, so he kind of likes that. But theme in a game doesn't matter to him. He wants just a fun game. When I told him the theme of this game, which is you are rats who have heard that the best cheese is on the moon. So you now have to collect items like vinegar and baking soda to create the rocket fuel, like cans and what's
cheese?
Well, you collect the cheese to possibly do something else and to pay off other players, calculators for the nose cone for the computer system. You're collecting all these things to then become the first rat, or really just to score victory points as you build the rocket, as you put lots of cheese into research, as you get more and more rats onto the board. Fun, silly theme, but really well done mechanics. I really like this game as a light Euro, and it is First Rat. Check that out by Pegasus Spiel. No more trips for the Podfather until Podfather the Cruise. So we are, as they say, home for the holidays. So Paul and I are actually this week in a plan. Like, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to go out to dinner? Are we going to, what things? Maybe we'll do some like local trips. I might take a trip up to, excuse me, up to the Kennedy Space Center if they announce a launch. We'll see if that happens. I'll keep you guys posted. But one of the things we'd definitely be doing a lot more gaming, just Paul and I, and maybe with some friends as well. As I mentioned, Roy coming up here. But right now, she and I are playing I mentioned Cosmos again, Cosmos Exit game, the Advent Calendar, the Search for the Golden Book. So this is the second year that Cosmos has put out an Advent Calendar with 24 puzzles in it, thematically based on Santa Claus's Golden Book, where he keeps, the naughty and nice list. And Ignacy, you are on the naughty list. I saw that already. So every day you open this thing up and it's a little puzzle to get to the next one. It's really cute. The doors on the Advent Calendar are not numbered. So you have to figure out where the next door is. That's what the puzzle does, right? So maybe the first one was numbered. I don't even remember if that one was numbered. I guess it was. But then after that, you figure out the puzzle, you put it into this slide rule-like thing to create the code. You turn it over, and it says go up, go across, go to the side. And if the symbols on that code match the ones on the door, you got it right. You open the door. Well, you then go to the next day, tomorrow, where you read a nice thematic story, and then you go and do the next puzzle. Adorable. Great. It's a beginner level, which, by the way, we've been stumped on one of them already. So, beginner is very, very loosely here. So, Paul is pretty good at these things, and we were totally stumped on one, and we had to take a hint on another one. But would be really good for family with, young but not too young, like, it says 10 plus on the box. I'll agree with that. So family guided puzzle game, I think it's a really great idea. Obviously this year it's too late for everybody, but keep in mind the Cosmos Exit Series Advent Calendar. This year it's the Search for the Golden Book. It's not year specific though. You can buy this for next year. You'll buy it next year for next year. And they have two of them. I haven't done the first one yet. So that's it here at the Podfather of Gaming. We've got lots of interesting things to talk about. Let's go to the event deck. So Ignacy, the first thing that we put out here is about Hasbro. We love talking about Hasbro. And they hosted a fireside chat, I guess is a good way of putting it. They called it that, but it was an investor meeting. And they did it with an investment banking company. I'm pretty sure that this is what they're addressing here. So the investment banking company was asking them questions, and they were putting this out on the internet for people to hear. And they were really defining some of the things about how Hasbro is addressing the brand of Magic the Gathering, which is, by the way, that's their biggest selling game, right? With Dungeons and Dragons being number two.
Remind our listeners that the whole thing started a few weeks ago when Bank of America downgraded the Hasbro, right? But
They did.
I guess this is a direct follow-up to this event. Like I would doubt if there was a plan for such a chat without the things that happened these few weeks ago. 100%
that this came out of the fact that Bank of America, they have an investment banking arm. They said double downgrade, which is pretty rare that happens, stating that Magic the Gathering was being overprinted. Too many sets of cards, too many in each set. So they were devaluing the brand because at some point people run out of money and they just like, I can't keep up. I'm out. I'm done. If you keep up a certain rarity and a certain chase for the boosters and the new sets, people will want to get invested and it'll keep the price strong. So a bunch of things. I'm going to just read some of the quotes that they mentioned because it's very long and very complicated, all the things they said. But the person that was here was the president of the digital Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming, President Cynthia Williams, was fielding questions from a person at UBS. And she said, in aggregate, there is no evidence that Magic is overprinted. And the sentiment of Magic needing to cut print runs to support prices. That's a misunderstanding of our business and our customers. If prices of a print to demand product rises significantly upon launch, that simply means we are not adequately meeting customer demand, and we are making millions of players unhappy at their lack of ability to acquire the cards that they want to play. So if that is true, if they're printing and the price of those cards goes through the roof, I agree. I would agree that that's the case. Now, I don't follow the Magic the Gathering scene. I assume, Ignacy, you're not really following it these days. It's too much going on. But if they're refuting the assertion, I love using big words for you so that you get confused by my language. They're saying that this is not the case, that what Bank of America said, and then they're saying no, we're not overprinting because of the way the market is reacting to our print runs.
I think that what was said before was that there is not, the print run is not big enough. That was that there is too many products. So you have the situation that some of the products maybe indeed sold out immediately because players are hunting for them, but then there are other products that people don't care because there's too much product on the market. Indeed, when I was looking for some particular decks because I wanted to buy some Commander decks for Warhammer 40k, they were sold out because it was 40k IP, you know, on these decks, and they were sold out. But as I talk here with Marek, who is very big in the community and he sees on these forums all the time, he said that the community is complaining. There is too many expansions, too many sets, too many formats of play, and the community is getting tired. This is what people are saying. So maybe some of the sets are sold out. Maybe some of the most powerful cards go high on the, these eBays, etc. But the problem is not here. We are not discussing this problem, in my opinion.
They also mentioned, very interestingly, the president of WotC said that the sales of Magic the Gathering 30th Anniversary Edition was scaled back. They scaled back the expected supply to ensure a great collector expected experience. So this is interesting. So after saying, and by the way, and this is the one, this 30th Anniversary Edition, this is the one where, right, there's going to be some of these older cards being reprinted, right? This was a big thing that people got very angry about. Isn't that right?
Maybe this is for the $999.
I think it is, right? I'm trying to look. Yes, the $999 getting 4 booster packs with random content, which players went crazy when they heard about this. Saying it was unfair that they were doing that and reprinting older cards, which would not be tournament legal, but they said that they would never do. They're scaling back that supply to give people a better collector experience. So right there, they are addressing an overprinting, but it was with this specific edition. That I found very interesting. The most interesting thing in this article. At one point, they're saying, well, no, it's not the case. And maybe if we had more knowledge, we could see that current sets, when they come out, they don't, they do go up. So there's still a market force that is saying that they're not overprinting. But here they're saying, well, maybe we did say that we were going to print too many of this 30th Anniversary Edition. So therefore, these will now hopefully also maintain in price and go up.
Yeah, because we are Board Games Insider and we should be quite professional with what we report, I don't want to go too much into the gossips and rumors and what I heard or some of the forums, but the demand in Europe, I have information. Once again, this is not information. This is what I just found on the forums. This is not the legit information. But what I heard, the numbers for the back orders from the distribution here in Europe were extremely low for this particular product that we are mentioning. That basically players in Europe, or at least distributors, were very skeptical about the 4 boosters for $1,000, and so maybe now they are saying that they are scaling down. Maybe they saw the back orders and they saw, okay, it's time to scale down. So once again, this is not a legit info. This is not information from Wizards of the Coast. This is from what players are discussing, what they hear from the stores, and what stores are hearing from the retailers, from the distributor in Europe. But the numbers for Europe were dramatically bad for the orders for this particular product.
Well, there you go. Very, very, very interesting. Here's a big one. CMON is acquiring IPs from Mythic Games. So CMON put out a press release. CMON acquires Super Fantasy Brawl, Enchanters, and Steam Watchers from Mythic Games. CMON is pleased to announce the acquisition of these IPs from current custodian Mythic Games. CMON intends to publish continuously the existing titles while exploring new avenues for games and storytelling set in each of these worlds. Super Fantasy Brawl, designed by this gentleman, first hit Kickstarter in 2019, and the fast-paced Brawler series has gone on to raise over $1 million on the platform, as well as earning a dedicated fan base. First released in 2016, Enchanters by designers, I'm not going to pronounce these Slavic names. If you'd like to, you can, is the long-running fantasy card drafter and crowdfunding hit that went on to spawn multiple successful expansions and positive reviews. The newest in the title, Steam Watchers, designed by Mark LeGroy, I can do that one, debuted in 2021 by a successful Kickstarter campaign. The area control game explores a unique and fascinating post-apocalyptic frozen Europe where players must harness the power of the earth to survive ecologically ravaged wasteland. So, Ignacy, you want to make any comments before I do something? Because I have some comments that that might be some interesting information about other things regarding Mythic Games.
I just want to say that Enchanters, the game designed by Rafał Sywicki and Jacek Gołębiowski. Jacek Gołębiowski is my very close friend. He lives here in Gliwice, believe it or not. He was a vivid member of my gaming club before there was like a big industry here in Poland, etc., etc. So I know him very well. We played role-playing games many times. So I'm very happy for him. I'm very happy for both of them. And basically, of course, I'm very happy for all these designers who have now bigger, great publisher. On my Slavic side, these are not like a huge, big, first page titles that you want to announce that, oh, we just, we just get the pandemic, we just got Carcassonne. No, these are like a smaller titles, so they are great, they are good. But I'm not saying that it will change the business for CMON. Like now they purchase some great IP or great title that now they will be very important for them. These are just like good games, but nothing to make a huge press release out of it.
Yeah, and that will bring up my next comment. And that on the same day that this was announced, Mythic Games announced that they're transforming to a better face in 2023. They're having a huge reorganization of the company, and they are going to be, from what I can read here, looks like they're downsizing in some areas. There's going to be very big changes to what they do in 2023. So, listen, I don't have any insider knowledge here. I do not have any insider knowledge. So I don't want to say anything that people will take and start publicizing like Bonacor said. But my take on this, because, we should be fair, and we know things that when things signal, we know what happens sometimes. This feels to me like Mythic Games was not doing very well. They sold the IPs, their best-selling IPs, probably, to CMON, and now are going to shrink the company and retrench themselves to stay profitable going forward. I know that some of the games they brought out fairly recently weren't very big at all. Didn't do well from what I can see. So my take is that this was, okay, well, let's get cash and let's get the company smaller and like kind of almost start again. So that's how I'm looking at this. I don't know if you have any comment on that, Ignacy.
Of course, I must be much more delicate than you in this situation because I'm still working in the industry. So, but a couple of points. First of all, Darkest Dungeon, their newest Kickstarter, just delivered a few weeks ago. It was delayed by I don't remember, it was a 1 year or more. Like there was a huge delay. I have the same situation with the huge delay of Robinson Crusoe. So I'm not here criticizing the delay. I'm just saying that we as the publishers, in today's very difficult environment, we have some problems. whatever it is a longer development, this is bad, because if you're presenting Kickstarter, you should know how long development it takes, but sometimes it is a production process, sometimes it's a shipping process. So I know they had a huge delay with Darkest Dungeon. Once again, I'm not criticizing, I have the same problem with Robinson Crusoe, but I'm just saying that I know that this is problematic when you don't deliver the game in time, when the game is not released in time, and then there is a lot of issues with that. I know
Sure.
that my company is also having some changes for the next year, so we are also, as you just said, rearranging some of our business model decisions, our plans for the next year, because as I say in this podcast very often, almost every week, being publisher is quite a ride. The market is very difficult. All the problems in China and logistics and delayed games are not easy.
Absolutely.
And on one hand, for you guys, for instance, when I say, hey, we have a delay with 11 in China and the game will be not released this November, but early next year, you say, well, poor Ignacy, unlucky, but he will release this game. Next year, he will be fine. For me, it is, I just missed World Cup.
Yes.
And having this game in February makes so much less sense, yes? And I paid for the shipping, I paid for the production, and I don't have my money back. And I will have them around February or March. And maybe then the game will be not so successful. So what I'm saying is, yes, some publishers have to fight very hard to grow or to survive, etc., etc.
Right. You know, I had a dream. You're not going to believe this. I actually had a dream last night about 11.
Really?
I swear,
Awesome.
I swear to you, I had a dream.
Did you win? Did you win?
That I didn't have my game yet.
Okay. Please don't do it to me.
I'm sorry. No, and I wasn't mad or anything. I'm like, hey, you know what? I gotta go reach out to Portal. You know, the World Cup is over. I should have had the game.
Yeah, that's the case.
I mean, you know, we could joke about this a little bit, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, sure. For you, it would have been so much better. Of course, having it out right before the World Cup, right? But you had you had a nice number out there, you know, for Essen, and you've been shipping. So I'm hopefully that's going to build on it. And of course, this game is more geared, at least on some level, to the European market anyway, because well, you guys love this sport, and we tolerate this sport. And with that, let's get over to strategy and tactics. All right, we have Scott V, who's Scott Dawn 1, and he asks, while this question is for both of you, I guess it's more directed, I should say, at Ignacy. I'll apologize up front for my tongue-in-cheek comments for obvious sarcasm, but just can't logically figure it out. Okay, he's going to be sarcastic. Why are you and some other publishers not utilizing Board Game Arena and, to a lesser extent, Yucata? Do you not like the additional word of mouth, the PR, future game sales, etc.? Is it an anti-Asmodee thing? I have personally, as well as know countless others that have gone out and bought the physical copies of the games after trying them out on these sites. Why are your games not on these sites? I would think games like Imperial Settlers and Empires of the North will look beautiful on Board Game Arena and lead to many additional physical sales. Show off your games to tens of thousands of more people and get them on these sites. I must be correct in my assumption as publishers continue to add games to BGA catalog. Wink, wink. He actually typed out wink, wink. And he said he listened to episode 254, just so this question came very recently. See, we're running out of questions. And I do not consider Tabletopia and TTS on an equal playing field with BGA. Correct. While TTS is great for hardcore gamers, it is not as welcoming to newer gamers. BGA does keep scoring. The rules are hard-coded, easy to find players, etc. Ignacy, why are you being so mean to people and not putting your games on BGA?
Short answer, we have no time. So, of course, we have Port Against Digital. I could let them do that thing and start negotiating with BGA, that is Asmodee, etc., etc. But no, they are coding Hiroshima Hex. They are coding Antares for Detective. They have so many things that they have no time for that. Obviously, somebody can ask, hey, there is potential business here. Please focus. Please hire somebody who can run this business because you may have more sales out of that. But, well, of course, there's so many different opportunities when you run a business, and you cannot grab everything, and you cannot do everything. So yes, we have a couple of our games on Tabletopia. We have a couple of our games on TTS. For BGA, we don't have enough resources. We don't have enough time for do that. So this is my one answer. As for Anti-Asmodee, no, we were not on BGA before Asmodee. We are not now. It's just a lack of time. It has nothing to do with Asmodee.
Yeah, and 100%. That is the answer that any publisher will give you, Scott, regarding this. It's not because people are anti-Asmodee. Certainly not. That's the last reason. It's simply a matter of time. You have to implement them, or if Asmodee came to you, or the people who were running BGA had come to you and then said, okay, we want to do your game. So there's a lot of work to get the games implemented. It's a completely different skill set too. Ignacy, you've got the digital group in your company, but they're working on other things. They're working on your apps, and apps make lots of money for you. And that supports your games even more directly on a lot of levels. So 100% agree that that's the reason why it doesn't work. LOL Marg, who's LOL Marg on Board Game Geek. Hello, both of you. I've been listening to you for many years. After Stephen retired, I was seriously afraid that with only one of you in the business, the interest would decrease. Luckily, it didn't. It has not. I still want to be a face here. LOL Marg. Here's the question. How important is BGG for a game and a game publisher? Who takes care of the entries and the photos of your games on BGG? Who replies to the rule questions? Is it a lot of work for your company?
So first of all, these days, I would say that BGG is very important for some publishers and not that much important for other publishers. Our industry is growing like crazy. With the release of games like Wingspan or of course Ticket to Ride, etc., we reach people who have no clue about Board Game Geek. They have no clue about Scott Alden. They have no clue about all our new thing. They just bought the Wingspan. They just bought Ticket to Ride. They're enjoying the hobby, and that's all. But then there are these geek publishers like Portal Games or Stronghold Games, and then these geeks sit on Board Game Geek all day long and half of the night. They're absolutely crazy. And for us, for the geek publishers, BGG is very important. We need to put the rulebook there. We need to put photos of there. We need to put description of the game, because it will be browsed by all these crazy geeks, our listeners, and more people. For us, I have one employee who is in charge of putting the game into database and keeping it updated. So when there is a photos of the product, she puts these photos on the website. If there is a new video, she puts this video on the website. So she's responsible for uploading the content for all our designs. So all pages on Board Game Geek for Portal Games are as full of content as possible. As for rules question, this is difficult. We ask designers to try to be, in touch with the questions, but there is of course more and more questions, and at some point the designer is already tired, and I have no contract that said that he has to be there. It's just he being nice and being involved with the community. So at some point, obviously, each publisher and each designer is less and less involved. It is also the reason because we have so many games in our catalog. When I was racing in 2012 Robinson Crusoe, I had like 5 games in the database of Board Game Geek, and I was able to follow up all the questions. And now I have 40 games in the database of Board Game Geek, and I have like 100 notifications every single day with the different questions. For Rattle Battle Grab the Loot, do you remember I released this game? Or Crazy Cards, or Zombiaki, or Convoy, and there is so many questions. So obviously I have no time to follow all these threads, and therefore there is a community, and we rely on community. So other geeks who answer these questions. That's a long answer. I think.
That's a really long answer, but it's a very complete, full, and great answer. And I'll give the little bit additional. When I was the president of Stronghold Games and from the founder the whole time, guess who would do it? That would be me. I would do all of it. I would get the entry in. I would, maybe sometimes, with the games that started in Europe, all I would have to do is say, okay, we're also publishing this game, right? And then I would upload my photo for the game. The photo of the game always is the English edition. So very often the Stronghold game would replace the foreign language game. It's because it's an English language database. The English publisher has the first priority in Board Game Geek, whatever. So I would be the person doing that. And it's a lot of work. And then, as you said, very importantly, I mean, I published 200 titles, right, in the course of my 10 years running the company. And there's, when you did something 8 years ago, you're not really looking at that as much. You're hoping that the designer of the game comes in and does something, answers a question, or the community, right? The people who are still invested in that game come back to that thing. They have it listed as a game, so they get notification, oh, there's a new post, and they answer the question or they talk about it. So great question. Very nice, detailed answers. Fabian Conkus, who's a designer, he says, at Fabian C is his name. You have both done and still do for Ignacy quite a lot of localization of games originally published by other publishers. Have you ever refused to localize a game because it's art and illustrations, even though the game was good? Would you consider redoing the art entirely? And if so, who would pay for that, you or the original publisher? Would you maybe only redo the box art? I know that you did that, Ignacy. Thanks for the podcast, which I listen to in the morning on my bike on my way to work. Oh, that's great, Fabian, using his bike to get to work. So I don't think that I've ever refused a localization based on artwork. We've refused many games based on the gameplay, or based on just it was a questionable theme. The theme was not going to work for my market and was not going to, it was just not a good theme. I mean, just that period. So then the artwork is irrelevant. But so apparently you've changed artwork on a game. Was it based on you didn't like the artwork, or it was questionable? What was the reason you did it, if you want to talk about that one?
So there are two answers. Greetings to Fabien. He's my friend from Switzerland.
Cool.
We did a game from Renegade Games. And what's the title of this game? Oh my God.
I hear you, man. We're getting old. We forget these things.
Castle of something? Castle. No, I'm so sorry. Anyway, it was a great game. We loved the game, but we really disliked the cover. And we reached Renegade and asked them, we love the game, we want to do Polish edition, we love the artwork in the game. The cover is just not appealing for us, and would you agree for us to change? The Renegade game said yes, whatever, if you want to pay for the new artwork, be my guest. Sure. So we bought a new art piece and released the game in Poland. The same was the Polish edition of the Crypto, one of the best party game ever designed. Polish edition of the Crypto also has a different cover. And yes, as for the refusing, so just deciding we are not going to do the game just because the artwork, I would say that it is not such a definitive answer, definitive case, but mentioned earlier by you the game about the rats.
First rat?
Yes.
Okay.
So we had a sample of this game very early. I was in Pegasus Spiele offices. I playtested the game. I absolutely loved the game. Then we got the sample for the game. We were playtesting in the office, and in the end, we did not decide to do Polish edition of the game. And it is not entirely because the artwork, but it was one of the arguments when we were discussing the potential of this game, potential for the marketing of the game. When we were discussing the sales, we all like the gameplay, but when we discuss the board is very dark. You played it a couple of days ago, so you know the board is very dark. The cover is very dark. The game is about the rats. It's funny, but it is also quite weird for the mass market. And we were just, noting down all the pros and all the cons. And the art was one of the reasons that we decided finally no. And there is no Polish edition of this game. I'm not happy with that. I love the game. I have it in my collection, so I love it personally. But marketing and sales team were complaining that this game is looking too dark-ish, too boring-ish to sell the gameplay.
Well, you're wrong again. It is dark. I mean, I agree that the cover is dark. but it's lightened up, so to speak, by the fact that there's this cute rat on the cover and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I guess art is a very subjective thing. And by the way,
Absolutely.
I think I found the game you were talking about, because you said Castles of Caladale.
Yes.
Aha! See, I was doing it while you were speaking, and I see the Renegade cover, and I see your cover, and I think this is your cover. It doesn't have your
Mine is
logo.
white on a white
Yours,
background.
right, white, castle on a white background.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean their cover is darker. I don't know. I actually don't know which one is better. Again, it's just a very subjective thing. Which way do people want to go with their games? As long as you don't mind paying for it, well, the co-publisher, the original publisher, is not going to mind, unless there's something really strange going on. They just won't mind it happening. And with that, Ignacy, we got to get to playtesting. So last week, Ignacy, you asked the question, which game component from our latest modern games would you be able to sacrifice or downgrade to ensure that we get lower prices in games in general? So
most of our listeners said something that is not true. They said they would get rid of miniatures. You just saying that, and then you look at the Kickstarter of the game without the miniatures is just doomed. Like, you guys love miniatures so much, so I will not trust you. I will not remove miniatures from the Thorgal upcoming on GameFound page. So no, but yes, most of you said that you would easily get rid of the miniatures. Jim said, I agree. In most cases, the miniatures aren't necessary for me because I don't paint them. So this is a reasonable answer, right? He's not painting miniatures, so he doesn't need them. But both in Robinson Crusoe, miniatures were looking awesome, and we had a success in Thorgal. I will go with miniatures because I know when you go to the crowdfunding, you need to have plastic. Mike surprised me the most from all the answers that I found here. He said he would get rid of, be with me, dice. He said dice. Most of the time, the included dice are pretty terrible, and I would rather use my own. I cannot imagine the mess on the Board Game Geek forums when there is a game published and the rulebook says find some dice at home and use them instead the dice that we have in our box. That would be like a huge argument on the forum. So yes, we as the publishers, if the game uses dice, we have to add them, even though if you have at home super fancy dice bought at some convention or somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
can you imagine the outrage? I didn't put we didn't put dice in the game because you can just go into another game or into your fancy dice. People would be outraged beyond outrage.
So Mike, thank you for the suggestion. I'm not going for that suggestion as well. That would kill me. And Jan said plastic inserts for sure. And he has a very valid point. It won't fit the game most of the time anyways, because people are adding these sleeves to the cards, they're adding some the printed things from the Board Game Geek, some custom additional pieces that they bought on Etsy or eBay, and then this plastic insert that is designed purely for the basic components of the game suddenly makes no sense, and people are throwing it away. So this is something I'm considering. In one of the games that we will announce in January, we will most likely go without plastic insert, just to go with cardboard, and you just throw everything and fit it.
Yeah, so yeah, I think there was a big theme in this entire thread. In plastic inserts, John Merlos says, I'm gladly give up mediocre plastic inserts to lower the cost if a well-designed one isn't an option. So I have said many times in my life, inserts, I hate to say it like this, but I'm going to say it. Inserts are dumb. They're just dumb. 90% of the games don't need an insert. The cardboard inserts that we as publishers put there, the basic ones, are there for one purpose only: to protect the components on the way to you. Because if we just threw the components in a box, they would destroy each other. They would hurt each other. That's the reason. And then people went crazy. Then they wanted this, they wanted this. If you want to go out and buy an insert, God bless you. Fine. You want to spend another $50 to put an insert in your $50 game? God bless you. I don't want to do that. I take the stupid insert that was there, that I put in there as a publisher, and I throw the darn thing out, and I baggy up my stuff, and I'm happy. And it just sits there on my shelf, and I pull it out, and I pull the bags out. That's, for 95% of the games, that's all you need. So plastic inserts, forget about it. You put like just a little bit of cardboard there to protect the game, and maybe even make the box smaller sometimes so that you can even reduce all of that, right? So, and then there's less rolling around of components. Adrian Patterson says this one is interesting. Why the fixation on lower prices in games? As far as I can tell, there are literally thousands of new games a year. The vast majority of these are relatively cheap in price and don't have premium game components. If we have a small proportion of top-end prices for luxury games, then so be it. This is just catering to a particular market segment. Maybe this is really directed at crowdsourced games. Those are blinged out and overproduced, but hey, this is for a particular market and you don't have to buy it. And again, there are so many other games that don't have fancy components and are just great experience and don't cost the earth. Diversity of game experience is a good thing. I agree. I mean, I agree with that principle, and that's the principle of like Foundations of Rome, which I've talked about ad nauseum and how great that game is. But absolutely part of that experience is the big 3D pieces. Did you need to have those pieces in the game to make that same game? No, not at all. But it helps the experience. It's a very high price point. It's not for everybody. And Arcane Wonders, I'll predict, I don't know, will bring out because the game is sold so great in that format, they'll bring out a lesser priced version of the game for everybody else. And that's fine. So, you know, I do think that we should focus on game prices, but that's like the games without the crazy stuff already, the over blinged out stuff. We do want to keep prices a little bit lower for your basic family games and things like that, because not everybody can afford the big games. And Peter Haroldson says, basically any plastics, inserts and minis, but any plastics, basically any plastics, but dice. Wooden pieces or standees usually work as good. Even cards could sometimes be a suitable replacement. I could also accept resource sliders rather than a stack of resources, even though I love to fiddle with my resources when I play. Yes, I'm primarily a Eurogame player. More thematic games make it trickier, though, since the minis usually bring lots of theme into the game. But again, the standees may work just as well. I do believe, as you said, that people are, again, watching the words a little bit, they're kind of lying to themselves a little bit, right? Because nobody would not have the dice that they need in a game. People want miniatures and things like that. So, you know, there's this whole thing like, sure, I can do with that, but then they see the big shiny thing and they go for it, right? It's a very interesting psychology. I'm excited to see both happen. I'm excited to see overproduced games, but I don't have to get them. I'm excited to see games that just do a Euro thing, right? They've got cubes, they've got boards, they've got a regular player board, doesn't have to be double layered or anything like that. They just play great in a format that keeps them a reasonable production cost and therefore a reasonable price. Ignacy? I guess we got to go to next week's question. Exactly. Which is from Stephen. And my question to you is, will you buy yourself a gift for the holidays? And since this podcast is dropping on the 21st of December, hopefully you will have thought about this. If so, will you buy yourself a board game? Which one? Bonus. How about buying yourself or your partner buy you a ticket to the World Series of Board Gaming and use the code PODFATHER on checkout to get $40 off? Go to WSBGVegas.com and do that. I'm going to continue promoting these guys because I really want to see this event succeed. And I'm helping them find sponsors and things like that just because I can. So that is part of the question. Go check out World Series of Board Gaming. In the meantime, Ignacy, are you getting yourself a gift for the holidays? Are you buying yourself a board game? If so, which one?
before I answer this question, I want to say that if you buy this ticket that Steven just mentioned and you will save $40, you can go to portalgamesus.com and buy a game from Ignacy, and I appreciate your business. Oh yes, in December I'm crazy. In December I have this is my excuse that this is a holiday season, so I buy far too many comic books to myself. I buy far too many books to myself. I go to the game store and I buy games because I have an excuse that I will play during the holiday with my wife Mary. So yeah, December is when I have no boundaries with my geekiness, and there's so much of shiny stuff coming, and I have these games bought online, and they are under the Christmas tree, and I need to admit it, I need to be honest with our listeners. For the past 5 or 6 years, under the Christmas tree at Trzewicek house, most of the gifts are for me. There is so many packages that are coming in December to my house, and I put them all under the Christmas tree, and then my kids get this 1 or 2, boxes, some gift then, and I have like 10 boxes with books and comic books and games, and this is pathetic, embarrassing, and this is me being a geek.
That's very cool. And you're buying them for yourself.
Yep.
Yep. That's cool. So my answer to my own question is that, first of all, I am going to the World Series of Board Gaming, and I hope to see you guys there. So go buy yourself a ticket. But also, I have traditionally done this. I have traditionally bought myself a gift, and I have traditionally often bought myself a game. I'm doing neither this year because, well, I have stuff. I have so much stuff. I'm looking to try to play the games I have, sit down with friends and play these games. When I want, and I buy games all the time, right? You go to a convention, I'm always coming home with a new game. Always coming home with a new game. So I buy them over the course of the year, I guess is a good way of putting it. I don't focus on the holidays as the time to get me a new game. That's it, or me to get a gift. Paul is dying to buy one of these, what do you call these things? It's you plant things, but it only uses water. Hydroponic. It's a hydroponic garden, so the plants grow based only on water. Pretty interesting. And she wants to put it in the kitchen with a light on top of it that constantly gives it. Oh, and it's going to be for herbs. So you have cilantro or you have oregano. So as it's growing, you grab some of it, and snip it into your food, into your cooking. So we're probably going to end up getting that. That'll be the gift that she gets for the household for the holidays. I'm sure we're going to pick this up before the end of the year. It's on sale now too. Everybody out there, Ignacy's going to create a thread right now with this question. The entire question, Ignacy, make sure you get all of it. So please go over to our guild and find the playtesting thread for this question and post your answer to us. And hopefully we'll read back your answer on next week's show. In the meantime, let's get to the final scoring. Thank you all so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcast. Or you can watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. Do you want to be part of this podcast? You can. Just ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment by posting them in the correct thread in our guild on Board Game Geek. And also answer our question to you from our playtesting segment also by going to the guild on Board Game Geek and looking for the thread with this episode's question. Check out our websites, which are portalgamesus.com and thepodfathergaming.com. We are all over social media, so interact with us, please. On Facebook, please like our page, which is /BoardGamesInsider, and then /PortalGamesUS and /PodfatherGaming. You can speak directly to Ignacy and Steven on Instagram and Twitter, which is @PortalGamesUS and @PodfatherGaming. And the very active YouTube channels are Portal Games Movies, Portal Games Gameplays, and The Podfather of Gaming. On TikTok, for Ignacy, it is Portal Games US. We really would love to see you in person at an upcoming convention in 2023. So if you come to see us, come to see the convention, be there, and just please walk up to us. Talk to us. We love doing this. We really live for this. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Matthew Jude from This Game is Broken Broken Podcast, as he's done for so many years in the past. Thank you, Matthew. And starting with the beginning of the year, our new podcast audio editor will be Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine. If you want him to edit your podcast, you can reach him, of course, at tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. And also that great voice you hear doing our intro, outro, in between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Ignacy. So we talked about this before, that you posted this, I don't know, I'm going to call it a rant in your blog on ignacychevychek.com about War of the Ring, the card game. And you were saying it's just a bunch of randomness. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And who was the first person? Who was the first person that texted and refuted your War of the Ring, the card game conversation there? Randomness. Feh. Bah. So, no, you were not. You were actually kind to it. You said there's a lot of randomness, and you just kind of go with that and still have fun with the game. But I think that it has, it's a randomness mitigation game that, because of the way that when you have your hand of cards, every time you play a card, regardless of the way you play it, you then have to cycle a card. You take a card and you put it to your discard pile so that later on it comes back. So that's why I consider it randomness mitigation. You may not have the cards right now to win on the path or the battlefields that come out, but hopefully later, because you'll play things to reserve to bring them out, or you play them to your discard pile, which will become a draw pile later on, you will have the cards. Randomness, sure, but I think it's a mitigated, controlled randomness. So I refute that assertion.
I agree with you, and I use this article to maybe point out to the gamers. If you are sitting to play a card game, you never know what card you will draw.
Right.
Just accept it and don't complain that you needed that card. That card might be on the bottom of the deck. That's the life of the card games. So yeah, thank you for today.
And thank you everybody out there. But I do want to tell everybody, if you want to read, you almost typed the address of my website.
I was going to tell everybody after.
I was going to tell everybody to go over to ignacychevychek.com, which I can't obviously spell, but you can start typing it. It'll come up if you put it into Google. ignacychevychek.com. Go there. You can read his blog post from this week about War of the Ring, the card game, and my response to it, the first response of the couple that he got on this, and you can check it out. See, Ignacy, I got back to your things. I talked about how wrong you were about the game, and then I talked about your website again. Isn't that good? I'm a good friend. I'm a very good friend of yours.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
I appreciate you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for today. Talk to you next week.